Red issue splits film industry. So shouted the headlines of the Los Angeles Daily News on October 20th, 1947. The third and smaller subhead squeaked, Wyszynski in bitter tirade against the U.S. 41 years later, not one college student in 1,000 can identify Wyszynski. But a surprisingly large percentage of those same students are aware of the existence of the Hollywood 10. Like a troop of mummers, the unfriendly witnesses invaded the nation's capital shortly before the hearings began. The group of 19 writers, actors, and directors, enough to make a number of excellent films, or start a small revolution, plus their stables of lawyers and a few wives, holed up at the Sheraton. The curtain was about to go up on the hottest show in town. Solidly for the next 3 weeks, and intermittently for the next 5 or 6 years. The proceedings that created the Hollywood 10 captured the headlines of the leading newspapers and periodicals, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. A public that had grown accustomed to daily reports of world crises during World War II had suffered boring reading for 2 years. They were hungry for something sensational and eager to lap it up. On opening day, the Los Angeles Herald-Express plastered its entire front page with headlines, photos, and stories of the testimony being heard in the Old House office building in Washington, D.C., with some of Hollywood's best producers taking the stand to be grilled and verbally mauled by members of the committee. Even the Cold War and Wyszynski had to be content with a story on page 2. The caucus room was the largest hall on hand in the Capitol complex for public hearings. Well over 400 persons waited in line for over an hour to snatch the seats available when the doors were opened. Throughout the hearings, all sessions were standing room only. To add to the crush, a battalion of Capitol Police was strategically scattered about the room. According to Hollywood Variety, October 21, 1947, which called the hearings a Red Quiz Barnum show, 90 seats were reserved for the journalists at the press table. 94 showed up, and 8 or 9 newsreel cameras covered the chamber's various centers of interest. The 4 major radio networks were also present in force and crouched at the foot of the crescent-shaped dais, which spanned the width of one end of the room. 24 or 25 news photographers faced the witnesses' table, cameras at the ready waiting to snap the performers of the day in their most awkward poses. All who had been subpoenaed or had volunteered to testify occupied the choice seats immediately behind the scene of action. The interrogators would soon take their places. We sat with the curious onlookers, but we were really the actors, who had to face an unpredictable audience. Confidence, I thought. But how could I be sure? I didn't even have a god to fall back on. Palms sweating, heart beating a ragged tattoo, butterflies trying to escape my stomach. I waited for the show to begin. Shortly after 10 a.m., J. Parnell Thomas sat down on his chair, which was supplemented by a red cushion atop a District of Columbia telephone directory, and gavelled the meeting to order. 3 other members of the committee had already taken their seats. They were John McDowell of Pennsylvania, Richard B. Vail of Illinois, and Richard M. Nixon, the freshman congressman from California. Their chief investigator was Robert E. Stripling. Hot on the heels of the chairman's opening remarks, Kenny and Crumb claimed the floor. As the Los Angeles Daily News put it on October 21st, Chairman J. Parnell Thomas banged his gavel mightily when attorneys Robert W. Kinney and Bartley Crumb tried to snatch the ball and run with it. The attorneys asked permission to present their previously announced motion to quash the subpoenas issued to 19 Hollywood actors, writers, and producers on grounds that the committee and the investigation are unconstitutional and illegal. Thomas silenced Kinney and Crumb with repeated blows from his gavel, but not before Crumb, a San Francisco Republican, had said sarcastically, "This is certainly an un-American procedure." The chairman held his gavel like a scepter, but wielded it like an axe. He reminded me of an assistant director I had known who fell in love with a bullhorn. It gave him a sense of superiority and power over a mob of extras. For Thomas, the rod of his office was his gavel. Without it, he was a short, dumpy, very average human being. Scheduled first was the testimony of the cooperating witnesses. The more I review it now, the sillier it seems. Although silly is hardly the appropriate word when one considers that lives, families, and careers were irreparably damaged by the allegations and opinions that followed.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.